You are watching the Movicon HMI Editor Basics self-guided video tutorial series. In this video, we'll build the control panel. Hi, I'm Matt Pelletier. For this video, I am assuming you've already completed the previous videos in this series. By the end of this section, you'll have this entire control panel working, and you'll be able to produce motion on the demo. The control panel has a few features that are a little more complex than what we've done so far. Let me just show that here live. You can see as I change screen, the control mode from the controller is changing based on the screen. You'll be able to turn the servos on and off and see that status reflected here. You also see position feedback status. You can reset the production mode cycle counter. And if you're in production mode, you'll see the start button. If you're not in production mode, you will not see that button. Let's pull up the demo and I'll show you the motion here real quick. You'll hit reset and then start. This initiates the move sequence. There's also an alarm indicator here, and if you were to turn on that low position error from the previous section and try to run, you'll see that the servos turn off and you have an alarm. You can clear that alarm back in the setup screen, and probably don't want that low PE on. The position valid indicator will stay on for now, and we'll see more about that in the next section. Now let me give you a little overview about what's going on behind the scenes here in the editor. Servo on, status, and position is just more of the same simple objects that go directly to a variable from the HMI. Reset is not too different either, but we are using something called impulsive time. The reset button here has the command type as impulsive, with an impulsive time of 800 milliseconds. That means that regardless of the amount of time you were to press this reset button, the variable attached to it will turn on for exactly 800 milliseconds every time. The stop button is special because we're using one button to control several variables at once. And the way that's happening is through the command type execute commands. When you press the stop button, we set the variables for X, Y, and Z. Okay. At the bottom, the alarm and position valid indicators are special because we're using an expression in each of them. We're using OR logic for the alarm to find out if one axis or the other or the third is in alarm state. Whereas for positions valid, we're using AND logic to be sure all of the axes have a valid position. The start button has a couple things that are interesting also. First, you noticed that the button visibility changed. That's a pretty simple adjustment. Enable visibility with the control mode variable. But there's something else going on behind the scenes here with the start button. And it brings up the point that the command state variable does not have to be the same as the variable executed by a command in the button itself. You press the button to strobe the request start variable, but the button illumination is controlled by the start command variable. So two different variables operating on the same button. It makes sense to do this a lot of times to see the confirmation of your request. This is what's happening inside the controller at the logical level. There are a few conditions here. Production mode, servos have to be on, positions have to be valid, no stop requests, production not complete. If all those things happen, we have a condition called sequence ready, which is used down here in the final rung. So when we press the button, we request the start. It's called this start request one shot, OS. And then that one shot, as long as the sequence is ready to start, will trigger the start command. The start button is executing the start request, but the illumination of the button happens only if the request was successful and the start command turns on. Moving on here to the mode, to display the mode, we're going to use a new object called a combo box. And in that combo box, you read the control mode variable, but all the way down here in listbox items, you type in the text values that correspond to 0, 1, 2, etc. So whatever the variable value is, that will display the text in this listbox item here in the box. That mode for the list box comes from the controller. It's an HMI variable from the controller called HMI control mode. But this logic in the controller does depend on knowing what the active screen is in the HMI. I have pretty simple code to determine the control mode, but in a more complex application, this code would be a lot more complex. Nonetheless, the controller should know the active screen that's currently being used in the HMI. So how can we send that from the sysvar active screen variable that we've been using since the beginning into this controller? The answer is to use what's called an event. An event is an item here in the Project Explorer. And I've got an event that looks at a different sysvar called toggle bits just to see if they change, and they always change. And if they change, we're going to move the active screen variable into this PLCI variable called HMI active screen. So that's the way that we get the active screen sysvar into the HMI, is by using an event. An event in the HMI is a lot like an if statement in programming, meaning if this event variable has some condition, in this case we're saying change, then you can execute certain commands when that happens. Events are very useful, and we will be using them in other sections as well in this training program. Okay, it's time for the Minilab. So as before, please open up that Minilab and use this as your guide to get done. You can pause the video now and resume to see me run through these steps myself. Welcome back. I'm going to now demonstrate the control panel Minilab. I've got my HMI project with placeholders for all the screens here. I'll arrange and format the controls, set the object properties, and then verify functionality. And when we're done, this whole panel here should be operational. I'm going to start here by arranging and formatting the controls on the screen, keeping in mind a minimum button height of 50, text and background color, and remember for mode, use a combo box. There we go. Here's the control panel. Don't need that indicator anymore. I'm going to start with some text from the setup screen. Just copy that here over to the control screen. Move that where it goes. That's called mode. Maybe a little skinnier. There we go. And the mode will be displayed in a combo box. So here in my toolbox, let's go down to Objects, Combo Box. I'll draw that in nice and skinny. Now I need some buttons. So how about some rectangular green buttons here? To check this size, you look at position. You can see the height there. That's a height of 50. And I'll type in here start. I think that's too small. I'll use size 12. And I wanted white. Okay. Now here's one thing you can do is to copy this. And even if you want it to be a different color, all you need to do here is go to Style and choose the style. You may have to scroll up, red rectangle, and I'll just change this here to stop. Paste another one here for the blue reset. Reset, and the style is blue rectangle. This one was servos on. Those guys are off center. Let's put them in the middle. Yes. Now I have status and position. I'll copy this and rename as status and position. I'll put in some lights here. Some green lights for the servo on status. Maybe about that size. And I'll put the axis letter on here. Yeah, maybe a little larger here for the status. One more amount. Now let's copy that, paste it a few times, and arrange them here. I'll rename to Y and Z. Position is another edit box display without spin enable and read only. And maybe it should be a little larger here too, like 12-point font. And I'll copy here and paste that. Now for the alarm, let's go find the red light. And label it alarm in white, size 10. I'll just copy that one here for the positions valid and change this style here to blue light. Okay, so I have the controls arranged. Let's go on here to looking at each of the properties. I've got my list of variables and their description, And let's just go through these here one by one. Servos on. I'll search for SV on. And I've got the servo on request for servos on. Reset is supposed to be impulsive, and the variable's HMI reset. I'll search for reset. HMI reset. Command type impulsive. And you may not see this. You've got advanced impulsive time 800. For status, we'll look for servo on. So let's look here for servo on. There's X. Onto Y. Okay. Onto Z. Those are easy. Now for addition, let's check these styles. A read-only, format value, and engineering unit. Min and max value have no effect. And the variable is called cur pause. Okay. I'm going to select all these at once so that I can set the engineering unit to millimeter and the format value to x.xx. There are other format values here. You have to be careful. Sometimes the comma looks just like the decimal point, so don't get that mixed up. This format value just means 2 decimal places is all you'll show. Now the edit box display variable, and I still have all these 3 selected. Let's look for cur pause. If I choose X, now let me be sure I didn't do that to all of them. Yeah, it happened to all of them, and that's not a problem. You can even go in here and change it, since I know the variable is only different by 1 character. I'll do it that way. X, Y, Z. Okay. And now the start button. This is where I have to distinguish between start command and start request. So let's go to start. And the start command, I'll search for CMD start command. The command type is supposed to be execute commands. The command on release the button, new command, I had to strobe the request variable, request, start request. I strobe the start request to a value of 1 for a strobe time of, I believe we're using 800 milliseconds. Okay. Okay. Now additionally, we have the visible property based on the value of HMI control mode equal 1. So let's find this under properties dynamics visible, enable visibility with that variable. Mode, control mode is the variable, and looks like the default value of 1 is what we want. That will make this button disappear if the variable is not equal to 1. And we want some text behind there that says start only in production mode. So that's just going to be basic shape text. I'll put it right here. It says start only in production mode. And that's going to have to go right behind it. And we'll use this send to back. And I think I better set that text to white. There it is. Okay. Now the stop button has to stop motion on all the servo axes with individual variables for that. Using stop request equals 1 upon press, and stop request reset upon release. Here's the stop button, and execution will be command style execute commands. We said the commands on pressed. The new command will be to set that stop request variable. Let's find that. Here's X stop request. Set it to a value of 1. Okay. And then what you can do here is copy and paste twice. Then go in and edit. I'll just edit this X to a Y. And I'll edit this X to a Z. Or you could just come in here and find it in the list too. Z stop request. Okay. Click OK on that one. You can also use copy and paste for the commands on release. I'll show that here. Commands on pressed. Copy. This copies all 3 of them. And then commands on release. Paste that in. And I can go and edit. Change the set to a reset. Okay. Same with this one. In fact, you can just type the R key. Goes to reset. And here, reset. So I'm doing a reset Oh, it looks like this one is wrong. Let me edit that one here. That was supposed to be an X. Okay, let me check this other one here too. Yeah, that one got messed up also. Let's do X here. Okay. Let's check one more time. XYZ. And commands on release. XYZ. All right. And number 5 looks like we wanted to have an impulsive time on the stop button also. Let's go to the stop button and give it impulsive time of 800. And move on now to the alarm indicator, which should illuminate if any of the 3 axes have an alarm. So we will use the drive alarm to build an expression. There's alarm, the command state variable. We'll use an expression. And you know, it's a better idea to set your filter ahead of time here. Drive alarm. Let's go into expression, drive alarm. And I like to make a separate line just for visibility, or Y or Z. Okay. We'll have something similar here with positions valid, getting the pause valid bit from the HMI using AND logic in an expression. Positions valid, command state variable. Look for valid and build the expression. I'm just double clicking here, pause X valid and pause Y valid, new line and Z valid. Okay. And now finally up at the top we have the mode in step J. The edit box display variable is supposed to be HMI control mode. I'll just search for mode here. But you don't want to display that numeric value. You want it to display a text value. And that's what you use listbox items. Don't get that confused with the listbox variable. You want to use listbox items. And we'll just type this in here with the pipe symbol. That's right above the enter key on the QWERTY keyboard. And like it says, don't use the ellipsis. When you're on this mode, it's easy to just get in the habit of double clicking or getting into the ellipsis, and then you'll be like, what? What's this? This is the language column. It's called the string table. This is not part of this training. You can read the help to find out more about the string table, but this does allow the HMI to have multi-language support. I'm going to cancel out of this, and we're just going to type in here, undefined, the pipe symbol, production, maintenance, and manual. Okay. Now let's check the spin size, spin width, and max value. The spin size is this little down arrow button. And if we use custom on it, you can then set the width to 0, and that makes it disappear completely. And now here under properties, style, max value, it's not super critical, but we know that we're not expecting ever to get a mode above 3 in this case. So I'll enter that. And consequently, I will mention that it's a good idea to save frequently. You do save every time you hit the Start Project icon, but when you're doing a lot of work and you're not about to start the project anytime soon, just remember to save so you don't lose your work should something happen. Now we're going to create the event to control the HMI active screen and send that out to the controller. So let's go here to the event area and add a new event object. Now in the properties, I've got the name, update, active screen, and the event variable was going to be that sysvar again. The sysvar has an element called toggle bits. I'll type T here to get down to the toggle bits. We're looking for those toggle bits to change, which basically means always. And the command, new command, I want to move the value of the sysvar active screen. I'll type A here to go back to active screen. I want to move the active screen into the variable of the controller. So I'll search here for active, HMI active screen. Okay. And okay, so this will just constantly write the active screen variable into the controller. That was steps B here and C. It's now time to verify operation. It does say first stop the HMI to be sure it doesn't interfere. If you followed along with me exactly, this won't be a problem. But if you were curious and wanted to send your project to your HMI hardware, then you may have a conflict at this point. And so just be sure that the HMI hardware has nothing running and you can exit out of whatever project may be on there. Let's start the project and save those changes. I think I'll get my demo up here too at the same time. Because I had only that control panel screen, it tries to fill the entire HMI area with this. All you need to do in that case would be to navigate to one of the main screens. First thing we'll check here is the different screens will change the mode. You should have production for both auto and recipes. Setup is maintenance. Jog is manual. And alarms is also manual. That's all coming from the controller here. Next, let's try servos on. I'm getting servos on and off. That's good. Does the start button appear only on the auto screen? I didn't point that out, but yes, that is happening. Now to start motion, go to the auto screen, hit reset just to be sure. Be sure the servos are on and start. There we see the first motor moves. Second motor moves, third motor moves, and then they all move back to 0. They should do this 3 times. To see if this alarm LED works, we will go to the setup screen from last time and turn on low PE. Turn that clear alarms off here. Low PE is on. Now reset the cycle counter again. Go back to the auto screen and try to start. And we do have at least one alarm. Looks like the X-axis wanted to move first, and that's got the AD0. So back in the setup screen, you can clear that, but you see that that does work. People most often have trouble with this mode. Be sure, first of all, that you are using the list box and not an edit box display. And be sure you've entered that text in the style list box items and not under the list box variable. Another good way to troubleshoot issues with this mode indicator is to put the control mode, HMI active screen, and sysvar active screen in the watch window and just see what those do. You should see it make sense as you go through the different pages. If something's not working, just check that event, which moves the sysvar active screen into the HMI active screen. That's got to be working in order for the control mode to come back into the HMI. I think we've been through all of the items on the certification checklist. So give me a couple more minutes here and I'll show you this optional part, which is how to make the start button text change while it's illuminated. Right now, if we turn on the servos here and hit reset and start, the start button does turn on, indicating that it's started, but you could change this button to read the text running. So let me show that here. It's done through the dynamic text edge color. Go to the start button and under dynamics, you have dynamic text edge color. We'll enable that. Now the variable should be the execution variable, HMI start command. Let's put that one in here. HMI start command. And the text is part of the text edge color. What they mean is the actual color of the text is called text edge color. So let's open up this guy. And we know we'll be going from values 0 and 1. So if I want the text to stay white, I'll have to change or edit that color here to be white. And notice right above there it says dynamic text. So when I'm at value 0, I want it to say start. And when I'm at value 1, I'll edit this one. I still want the color to be white, but I want it to say running. Okay. And that's really all there is to it. Now I'll activate this screen and run it and save it. Okay. Let me close this watch so I can see the action here. The servos are on. I'll reset the part counter. Go to production mode here and hit start. And it says running while it's running. And that's it for this Minilab. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video. And please go to www.yaskawa.com/HMI For more information on Yaskawa's HMI products and Movicon HMI editor,